Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of my Busch Gardens Williamsburg recreation. Last time we looked at wrapping up the Oktoberfest area, putting together the last few rides in here, connecting the paths all up together. It's been quite a bit of time since then. We've had quite a few build sessions, but as we're nearing the end of our build here, nearing the end of our series, there isn't really much left in the way of like big major rides to go. So at this point, we're just doing kind of a lot of little tweaks to the park, adding in some more detailing, filling in the gaps, all that good stuff that I always talk about. Hard to show that kind of stuff off in an episode, especially because I don't even really know all exactly what I changed since last time. There's so many different little things that I've touched since then that it's going to be a little bit difficult to point out every single one and make it an interesting episode, but I do have a few things I do want to show off. First of all, as you might have noticed during my little spiel there, I have made a couple tweaks to Verbolten, including some cutouts, one on each side of the show building here, mostly because I want to show off the drop track that I did get functional, which is really exciting. I mentioned before I wasn't sure if I would have enough vertical space for it all to work out. Actually, let's remove the scenery here. So let's pause here real quick. So you can see there is now a straight section of track here that the coaster will ride onto, and a straight section of track below that. And in between, there are invisible vertical sections of track. And as the coaster gets through to the end here, it's going to hit an incline, lose all of its momentum, go backwards, and as it goes backwards, it's going to fall down those vertical track pieces onto the lower track. And then do the same thing here. Go up a small backward spike, lose its momentum, and then travel forwards. It's a little finicky, and it's probably not as easy to understand what's going on when half the track is invisible. So once this is available for download, if you're curious about this, definitely encourage you to boot this bit up and see if you can figure out how it works. But I am pretty happy with it. I'm glad that it was able to work out. There was just enough space, and we actually have even a little bit of extra room here. I could have made this part down one unit, but I actually like having the little drop here to get some screams from the guests, so that you'd have some screams as they go past that boost right there, and you get a good view of it through the cutout. So yeah, so that was pretty cool to put together. Really glad that all worked out. Helps make Verbolten a little bit more true to life. And as you know, someone who likes to do realistic coaster builds, definitely my preferred way of going about it. One other thing I mentioned earlier, I wanted to reprofile this last section here with these little turnarounds, so it didn't look quite so awkward going up little tiny hills. And I did manage to squeeze in an inclined curve right here so that it doesn't look quite so awkward. It looks great from this angle. Doesn't look quite as good from other angles, especially this one looks a little bit silly. But from this angle, which I think is probably the angle most people will look at it from, looks really nice. So happy with that. So overall, really happy with Verbolten, with all the little track hacks, the flow of the coaster, the station building, all those things together. I think it makes it my favorite build in the park that I've done. Not to say I don't like any of the other ones, of course. So a lot of the other ones have turned out pretty nice as well. Like I mentioned, Alpengeist, especially these lift supports, I think are really cool. Anyway, as you can see, we've got some other details back here. We've got the old Drachenfire station, as I mentioned before, built back here. And I think this building was the maintenance shed and transfer track area for it. Again, not really sure what they use these buildings for these days. They're probably going to be putting in a new coaster here coming up pretty soon. But we've got some path and picnic areas back here. I do have these closed off to peeps because I'm pretty sure if I open this up, it would just have peeps getting lost constantly back here. So this area is going to stay empty, which is a little sad. It's always nice to have a little bit of movement back here, but I'd rather not have peeps getting lost. So probably we'll put some handymen back here to do some mowing. At least that'll give it some nice movement. And you've got the trains as well. So that's not nothing. As far as other major builds go, I think the only other one that we haven't talked about yet is the river raft ride, the Rhine River Cruise. I don't really know a whole lot about what this ride does in real life. It's probably a pretty big excursion out down the river and back. I don't know what there is to look at on this raft ride because I didn't go on it myself. So I just have it kind of going around this section of the river. Nothing too crazy. Didn't want to keep it too long so that the lines would remain short. So nothing too crazy with this one. Mostly just here to draw your eye towards some of the foliage around the banks of the river. Did spend a lot of time putting in all these little flowers and bushes to detail the edge of the river, which I do quite like. Not a huge fan of the station in this form. Probably going to play around with some different designs for this, because it does look a little bit plain with just the canvas roofs on it, which I'm not super happy about. So I got time to play around with some more designs, so I'll probably come back to that. Other than that, I don't think a whole lot has changed. I'm just kind of panning around the map now to see if there's anything super interesting to talk about, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Like I said, just made a lot of little tweaks to things, like Pantheon here. I've just done a little bit of tweaking to some of the supports and the station building, but you probably wouldn't even notice it if I didn't point it out. And I'm not even really 100% sure what I did either. So it's probably not really worth talking about. Quite a few sections of the park we haven't been to in a while. I still need to come back and tweak some of the buildings over here in the Ireland section, like I mentioned. Still not 100% happy with some of these. Lots of work to do around here still. I've been poking at France a little bit, since I did kind of rush to this area because I was kind of dreading building it. Not having a great time as I came through here. I'm always tweaking the Griffin station here and there, since it's got a super bizarre shape to it. I'm always trying to come up with new ways to make it look a little bit more natural. So every time I build, I come and I delete a wall or two, or put some roofs in different places to try to figure out a good way to shape that. Still haven't been totally satisfied with everything yet, but we'll get there eventually, I think. Also, at this point, we do have the railway open. I don't remember if it was open in the last episode or not, because I did not check, but we do have people able to use the railway. Since now the boundaries of the park are pretty much set in stone, we have the layout for the railroad finalized at this point. We can let people on the train. I have all 3 trains running. I'm not sure how many trains Busch Gardens normally runs on a given day, but I know that the railroad has 3 trains that it could run. So I figured we'd run all 3 of them. There they are. They're always bunched up together. I spent a lot of time trying to test this and make sure that the trains are a bit spread out, but no matter what I do, like even manually moving the trains around the track, they always wind up bunched together. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Hopefully no one will notice. Anyway, I think that's about to do it for this episode. Like I said, not a whole lot of major stuff to talk about, but there's been a lot of work going in since last time to do some tweaks and things. So I at least wanted to pan through the map and see if there was anything interesting. A couple cool things to show off, I suppose. At this point, the inside of the park, I think, is pretty much done. Not a whole lot left I want to mess around with. So a lot of work on the outside of the park to do, though. Of course, we have some parking lots to build, some more back lots to fill in, but those are going to come in the next episode, I think. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.